of all, so humbled by your graciousness and first how you introduce the callers and welcome everyone and just the energy you bring and then how you've given me this tremendous introduction. I mean, I really have to throw it back to you and thank you so much for all that you do. I mean, Kathy not only is our VP of Finance, I mean, she wears so many hats, so instrumental in every part of our business from customer service to really helping just to get things done. Thank you so much for what you bring to the company, but also as one of our Emerald directors, really just leading the charge. And like you said, it's amazing how you can meet someone as a stranger and truly become family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just appreciate you so much. And it's always so exciting to jump on the Monday call and hear all of our phenomenal team and family members just dialing in from all across the country. So good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, Akana family. Welcome to another amazing morning. Today we rise in purpose, passion, and power. And I always love to start this call by sharing our mission because our mission is so clear. We believe health, wealth, freedom, and legacy are our birthright, but often the most life-changing products. And in innovative business, we empower people to elevate to their full potential. The meaning of Akana is in the hands of God. We're here to build community, a community that really empowers people to heal their bodies, to free their minds, and create financial independence through generational health and wealth. I do have a lineup and some announcements today that I want to share. First and foremost, it's a very exciting lineup, so definitely grab your pen so you can mark your calendars. But we do actually have our 25% pre-Black Friday sale that has been extended through midnight tonight. So it will end. If you wait too long, guess what? You're going to miss out. But if you haven't had a chance yet to stock up on your favorite products, remember all orders from $50 through $499 receive that automatic 25% off. Anything under $50, you're still going to receive a 10% discount. Now, if you do want to place an order over $499, just place it in 2 orders because you can do 2 orders that are over that amount to get your goal. But just remember, it will cut off because of our sign-up packs, right? That's why we have to keep that discount up to $499. Now, tonight at 7 p.m. Central, I want you to join us for our AI and Canva training. It will be on our $1 billion big meeting ID and PIN. So if you jump on any of our other calls, you already know what that ID number is. If not, get with your leader and they will get you informed, okay? This session is going to really help you, master the tools that's going to help you make your brand shine online, building your business with confidence. And what's cool is you can really apply this knowledge across any type of business you might have. I mean, maybe you're in real estate or you have some other type of company. The cool thing about once you learn these tools, it really applies to any business in your life. Also, too, don't forget our hair Zoom that will happen tonight, where we're going to really dive more into the natural care and the growth and really empowering, your body by taking care of your hair, right? We know that our hair is our crown. And so we want to make sure you're plugging into that call that happens every single Monday. Also, too, the Diamond Factory is going to happen all week long. So make sure you mark your calendar and you set that alarm so that you can get up every day and really take your business serious so that you can reach those ranks as we push towards our maximum momentum as we're leading towards our November. So exciting. And then also, too, we do have an exciting new lineup for our full body reset call. So make sure you're jumping on our Tuesday and Thursday lineup because this is where health meets community. I mean, there's so much power in working with a community. This is really where our transformation begins. So make sure that you are plugging into that call. If you've ever qualified to be on that call, you can go ahead and jump on that call on Tuesday and Thursday. We don't share the pin on this because it is a private call and you must have purchased one of our previous packs that qualify you to attend that call. And so this morning, I'm actually going to do a little bit of morning mindset, okay? And it was actually inspired by Joel Osteen. And my husband on Sundays when we don't make it to church, he loves to watch Joel Osteen. And I've actually became a fan myself, just listening to his positivity, right? He's a very positive person, okay? And every time you listen to his sermon, it's just something you take away. And something he said as he was preaching, it just stuck out in my mind. And what he said is, our mind is the greatest real estate we will ever own. And I had to really think and process that for a second. I'm like, wow, when we think about real estate, I mean, typically, what do we think about? I know online we have real estate. We go buy our GoDaddy domains, and I call that real estate. We know that you can invest in property, there's land. But when you really think about the mind and thinking about it in terms of real estate, it really takes you deep, okay? Because within this real estate of the mind, you actually have rooms, and these rooms get filled up, okay? They get filled up with things that sometimes we just really shouldn't have or entertain, but they're there, whether it's fear, whether it's anger, whether it's doubt. But then we do have rooms also, and we can decide to fill those rooms with things like joy and gratitude and hope. But all of that's a choice. Sometimes we don't think it's a choice. We think this is just our body reacting, but we have to be intentional about what we let occupy those rooms. But what I really, was kind of tickled by is he said something like, hey, but there's good news, you're the landlord, right? And when you're the landlord, you get to decide, okay? You can decide what stays and what gets evicted. So yes, it is truly a choice, because the reality is this: when fear tries to move in, and that happens, right? Sometimes you have doubts and you don't necessarily believe, my business is not going to work and this is not going to work. We can actually serve that an eviction notice, okay? When anger is trying to take space up. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the danger of some of these emotions too, because these emotions aren't just tied into, your mindset, but they're also tied into your health. Okay, so let's say anger is trying to take up space and have a permanent residency. Well, guess what? You get a chance to tell anger that you don't pay rent here, okay? Anger doesn't pay rent, fear doesn't pay rent. And so that allows you to open the door to have peace, to have optimism, and to have faith that move in. And you want those items to take permanent residence, not the others. And so the reality is this: when we wake up every day, we get to control the atmosphere in our mind, right? When our mind is renewed, guess what happens? Life follows in that way, right? Where our life becomes so much more positive, happy, and optimistic. And so today, I challenge everyone to really start taking authority over your thoughts. And sometimes taking authority over your thoughts means cutting some things out, okay? Because there's certain people that you might know and you might be around who are kind of negative all the time. And unfortunately, we tend to become the people we hang around the most. And so you either influence your environment, which means you become the positive person in that room, or guess what? That room will influence you. And so here's the reality. We can decide today that positivity becomes a permanent tenant, okay, joy and happiness, and how abundance, right, really can begin to flow in every area of our life, because there is hidden damage when we constantly are in a negative state versus optimism, which actually has healing power. And so just know there's a chemistry. So there's a science to this, guys. Your thoughts are actually creating chemistry, okay, inside of your body. And just know that every time you think something, it's sending a chemical signal throughout your entire body. So when you're dwelling on negativity, on fear, on anger and worry, guess what? Your brain is releasing stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And we know the damage of cortisol, right? Cortisol not only becomes unsightly belly fat, right? Where you're like, why can't I get rid of this belly fat? But it also becomes heart disease, okay? And so these are just helpful in what we call short bursts. There's times you need a stress hormone if you're being chased by a dog, okay? You're running for your life. So there's times in which you need these to respond to danger. But when you're in a chronic, elevated thought process that's dwelling on these negative thoughts day after day, then what happens is they begin to damage your body's internal systems. I want you to think about that for a second. Damaging your body's internal systems. In fact, what they tell us, and this is the science behind it, chronic negativity literally teaches your body to live in survival mode. And when you're living in survival mode, it's going to weaken your immune system. It's going to disrupt your digestion. It's going to increase your blood pressure, and it's going to accelerate aging. But if we contrast that, right, and if you start thinking about positive and optimistic thoughts, what do those release? They release dopamine, okay, serotonin, all the feel-good endorphins that your body's natural chemical healing components need to heal, okay? And so these are going to reduce inflammation. They're going to boost your immune system. They're going to improve your heart health. Optimism literally shifts your body into repair mode. And so you have to ask yourself, do you want to be in constant, survival mode, or do you want to start tuning in to this repair mode and taking your health to the next level? And there's also a stress inflammation connection. Now, thank God we have CBD, okay? We have CBD and things that actually help to balance, right, that inflammation. But just know your own internal triggers by your thoughts are actually increasing that inflammation. And science shows that there's these negative emotions that are triggering the inflammation in the body and the root of nearly every chronic disease. See, when the mind is filled with bitterness, anger, and constant worry, the body responds as if it's under attack. And oftentimes we direct our anger and our bitterness at other people. And I once heard that, when you are angry at someone and you hold in that anger, if you're bitter with someone and you hold in that bitterness, right, it's like you are drinking poison every day, but you're expecting someone else to die, but you're the one drinking the poison, right? So what you have to learn to do is let go, because see, your immune system is going to stay on high alert. This is creating inflammatory chemicals that over time lead to what? It leads to heart disease. It leads to autoimmune disorders. It leads to digestive issues, weight gain, hormonal imbalances. But those who practice gratitude and positive focus tend to have lower levels of inflammation, better sleep, and even longer lifespans. The first book that I ever wrote, I wrote it with a couple other authors as well, and it became a bestseller. But it was Wake Up and Live the Life You Love, Giving Gratitude. And it talked about the principles of giving gratitude, every single day. And those who practice that, guys, I'm telling you, the science is there, right? So if you want to lower that inflammation, have a great night's sleep, and really expand lifespan, we've got to get that mind right, okay? And so just know, too, there's a connection even when we think about our body. Because when you think optimistically, you're going to breathe deeper, your muscles start to relax, your blood starts to flow freely, and it starts to send oxygen and nutrients to every single cell. Think about when you do the bioscan. What is one thing we tell you to do? We tell you to breathe in, breathe out, and think what? Happy thoughts, right? Think happy thoughts. But if you leave that bioscan and you go back to negative thinking every day, well, guess what? You start to accelerate your own issues just in your mind, okay? So in other words, how you think literally becomes how you feel. So positive thoughts can either be as healing as the best supplement or superfood, because your mind activates your body's own pharmacy. Remember how Dr. Thomas tells us we have our own internal doctor, and that but not only do we have our own internal doctor, but we have our own internal pharmacy. And so if we want that internal doctor to have the right tools to work with, well, then we've got to start thinking of happy, positive thoughts, okay? The power of renewed thinking as well. And again, as Joel Austin reminded me, and now reminding you all, that we are the landlords of our mind, right? When we evict that negativity, we free up space for faith, for peace, for creativity. When your mind is filled with light, your body responds with vitality. When you expect good things, your cells, your hormones, your immune system begins to act like good things are already on the way. And when you listen to the calls each morning, I know oftentimes the leaders are giving you affirmations or daily things they do on a daily basis, right? And you notice these are our diamonds speaking and are either our emeralds like Kathy. And it's amazing how you're hearing, right, these affirmations that they're doing, and look at their business, right? So if you want to take your business into the next level, it's time to have affirmations that you wake up with on a daily basis so you can steer your mind in the right direction and everything else follows. And how we apply this, in Akana, whether it's health, wealth, freedom, and legacy, We don't just teach wellness, right? We embody it. We believe that healing begins in the mind and then ripples through every single cell, every relationship, every financial decision. So as we move towards 2025, our vision of health, wealth, freedom, and legacy, which is actually now coming to the close because we're about to open up a new season in 2026, but we can remember this truth that a negative mind will never give you a positive life, but a renewed mind can transform your health, transform your home, transform your destiny. You can pass these on to the children who will pass those on to their children, and we can literally break generational curses of really having all this anger, all these things that really aren't serving us in any way. And so as I close it out, I just want to again remind everyone that our 2025 vision is clear. It's crystal clear. Health, because healing begins from within. Wealth, because financial freedom changes families and breaks generational curses of poverty. We know that freedom, because true success is living out life on your terms. And then, of course, legacy, because we're building something that lasts for generations. So we are moving forward and we are not looking back. We are walking by faith, not by sight. So as always, I say, we're going to see you at the top, the very top, the tip top. Let's go out and have an Akana day.